So welcome to Workday Advanced Reporting session. Let's quickly see the overview of the session. It will also be like kind of a tidbit for you to get familiarized with what we can do with the help of the current Workday reporting functionality.
Okay.
So in short term, Workday reports can deliver insights which can actually prompt action. So since Workday is a truly unified system, we can actually provide our business users with answers to some of the complex questions that they might ask on the reporting analytics. For example, they might ask questions like, are we paying our workforce fairly? And then whether, how do our employees compare in performance, pay, and succession? And which high performers are we at risk of losing? So these are some of the questions that the business might ask, and we will be able to answer them with the help of designing the report. So this would be considered as the advanced reporting in Workday terminology that also provides both reports and analytics, right?
Okay.
So the next most important thing which I wanted to explain is on the report writer top 10, right? So custom reports are designed and built by customers using the report writer tool. So we have a report writer tool within Workday. With the help of that, we were able to create reports. They can be created new or as a copy of another standard or custom report. So you can either copy a standard report and edit those report by adding a fields or removing fields, or you can start from the scratch by creating a custom report, right? So Workday reports are actionable where you can drill down on items. So there are fields on the output which will enable users to do a drill down, and also it will help us to perform tasks related to that within that specific report that we are accessing in. And also we will see custom reports can be scheduled, translated, shared, and more. So everybody knows that we will be able to schedule a custom report to another user who do not have access to it, as well as we can also translate the custom report. We can also share that with the user for them to self-service. So what you need to know about report writer? So report writer is an access or a tool within the Workday. So report writer is Workday's custom reporting tool. Access to report writer is by the assignment of the user-based security group, which is called as report writer, or with access to the custom report creation domain. So you should have either of these access to create a custom report, or even to perform activities as a report writer. So you can also designate report administrators with greater access to report creation and management tasks. That would be through the some of the security domains that we have within Workday. And for example, we have custom report administration and manage all custom. So if you give access to them, then they will also be able to manage the report. So you can also copy the Workday delivered reports that are of report writer type. So we have seen on the demo that we had two types. One is report writer, the other one is Expresso, right? So Expresso reports are built by Workday administrators. So we will not be able to copy those. We can only copy the report writer type reports that are Workday delivered, and those access will be given to report writer. Every custom report can only have one report owner. So the owner of the report can be defined either the person who create that report, or if you can also transfer the ownership between report writers, right? Maybe if you're, suppose if a report writer is leaving the organization, so they have to transfer the reports to other report writer, right? And every custom reports can have only one report owner. Only the owner can edit, delete, or view his or her own custom reports. So the report owner will have the ability to edit, copy, delete everything. So if you are sharing a report with another report writer, then that person will also have the access to edit or change.
Okay.
So that's where the report writer has to be very much careful to explain that if there are any sensitive data that should not be modified, it is better to mention it on the report definition, report name itself, so that the end user, other report writers will know that this report should not be modified. And then customs reports are by default not shared. So when you create a custom report, it will be not shared with any users. and also it is not visible to anyone in tenant until you share it with them.
Okay.
Right? Report writers can only create reports where they have access to the data source and report field. So if you do not have access to any specific data source, then you will not be able to create reports, as well as on the report fields. Sometimes you might have access to the data source, but for a specific report fields, let's take a succession plan or talent, something very sensitive data, report writer might not have access to create reports. So in that
Okay.
case, report writer should seek access from the security, and then they can probably create it. And
Okay.
report writers can only share their report with those who have access to the report's data source. Again, the data source plays a major role, right? Data source is the primary thing that report writer should be aware of while building a custom report. That the user should have access to the data source. Otherwise, even if the report writer tries to share, it will not show their names on the sharing option. So Workday security model will control what users see. So Workday security plays a major role on reporting. It will be tagged to all the fields and objects and data source. So every field that we use will be tied to a security access that Workday provides. So sometimes an user will be able to see the field wherein they will not be able to see the value out of that field, the data that is part of that field. Right? So Workday security plays a major role in reporting. So it is also good to get trained yourself in security model as well. And so these are the primary top 10 that report writer should be aware of before proceeding to any of the other actions that can be performed within Workday. Do you have any questions on this?
No.
Sorry?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, thank you. So the other most important thing, maybe I'm not sure if you would have heard this term called contextual reporting, right?
No, I have
So,
not come up.
so the contextual reporting, maybe you will not find it in any of the training session, even Workday provides or some other institute also. The reason is, it is one of the primary thing that report writer should know. The contextual reporting in Workday is a key resource when you know the data, but you do not know the metadata. For example, when you know the data you want to report on, but you do not know the object definitions on the reporting fields for that data, right? So when I say that, most of the report writer will struggle to find the appropriate data source or the business object for them to start building the report, right? They know where the data is located on Workday under any of the employees profile, etc., but they do not know how to report on that data. So this contextual reporting will help the report writer to identify the report fields and values along with the data source that are there, which would give them an easy access to generate the reports or build the reports. When viewing the data you are interested in, say a given employee or a given expense report, selecting report from the related action item, you will find three main contextual reporting choices, which you will see it on the tenant. So contextual reporting options can be used to create and view related reports directly from the context of a given object. So it can also enhance your knowledge of fields, object, and data sources associated with the given object, and also allows you to view existing related reports that may be repurposed or customized to all the context of the given report, given object. So let's see a quick demo on how to use this contextual reports. We have been asked as a report writer, there is a request that has come in, and the report writer has been asked to get data out of this job profile, right? So there is a job profile, and there is a requirement wherein um, the business would be asking us to report this job code. Let's say, hey, I need to know the job code field, and it has to be there on the report, and I should have all the job profile names along with the job code. So we know where the job code is located, but we do not know how to report this field. In that way, this contextual reporting would help us. So when I click on this action, related actions, so in Workday, it is called as related actions. Wherever you see the three dots, it is called as related actions, right? So you can perform actions or tasks from that field or object. So let's take here, wherever you see an hyperlink, you will be finding that related action. So from here, you can do some actions over that field or an object. So now we will find an option called reporting under related actions on any of the object or the place where you are there to find out the field. There are three tasks on the contextual reporting. One is create custom reports from here, or related reports that uses this field, or the report fields and values. Let's get into the report fields and values. So we need to know how to build a report and where the data is stored. So I have clicked on the report fields and values. So you can see all these fields, all these data are translated into the report fields, right? So we are actually looking to report on job code, which is 3300. So I'm going to search for 3300 here. So there are two ways you can filter the field if you are aware, or you can download this into Excel and then you can filter the value, right? Let me download it into Excel so that it would be easy for us to do a filter, because we do not have a condition on a value. We will not be able to filter it on value. So I'm going to download it. So now I'm going to search for the 3300 value. So we can find that value here. So these are the fields that uses this value. So again, report writer would have a challenge, which field I should use. There are 4 fields, which one I should use, right? You can look into the category. This is organization, this is under job and position, this is used by integration, and this is uncategorized. So normally we can consider either the category that is related to that particular function, or you can look into the category accordingly. Like job and position, organization would be the right option to look into. Integration normally used by integration team. So now I know that I have to look into either of this field, and I need to know which data source I should look into to get these fields. So I'm going to search for this field called ID. So it will display all the ID information whichever we have seen over there. And now I can quickly look into the data source. Which data source would provide me these values? So you can see there are 3 data sources through which I can get this job code details, right? See, here you are seeing it as a job code. Maybe from worker you can search for job code and you can fetch. But if you wanted to get into detail, here it doesn't say as a job code. The field name is different. It says ID.
Yeah.
In that way, it would be easy for a report writer to identify, okay, so I have to get into this data source, and then I have to find for an ID to report this value, right? So now let's look into the second option. So now we have looked into report fields and values. Now we can also create custom reports from here. So when I say create custom reports from here, it will display all the reports fields that are there in this report. So you can see the same report fields are matching. 157 reports fields are there. You can also see the same here, right? And we have chosen job profile as Director Recruiting Services. So now I'm going to select the fields that I would need. So in this case, so I'm going to select the effective date. I want some default currency as well. Let me also add the dimension reference ID. And then maybe if any other information I need, I can just add. And then let's also add some more field here. Yeah. So now it comes to the custom report page. So we can name it as job code report. And there are 3 data sources, as we have seen here. There are 3 data sources associated with these fields. So we can choose either one of it based on the related actions, looking into the definition of a report, description of a report definition. So this report access the job profile and its primary business object, includes all active job profiles. this one, it will also include both active and inactive job profiles, right? This one will give us job profiles with compensation information as well. So the report writer should decide whether which would, so for example, if they are planning to add compensation information, then this in job profile, this data source would be useful. If they are going to report only on the active job information, they can use the first one. Or if in case they wanted to add both active and inactive job profiles, they can use the second one. So in that way, it would be easy for the report writer to decide what data they are going to show. So let me choose all active, and then you will find it as a default filter. So most of the data source will have a data source filter, which are workday defined, right? You can also go further down on the data source filter. For this active job profile, we only have one data source filter, which is a default filter, which workday delivered, right? We will not be able to change this one. If there are multiple drop downs, you can choose one of the data source filter from there. And now I'm going to decide how I am going to show this data, whether if I'm going to show it as a detailed data or a summary of data. Let's select advanced to show it as a detailed data. And you can also checkbox this as a temporary report, so that if you are not going to use this report, you can delete it by running the delete temporary task.
Okay. So usually we can't delete the reports.
Yeah, as a owner of the report, you will have access to delete the reports. But if in case over a period of time, you might have ended up creating multiple reports. So in that case, what you can do is you can mark the reports that while creating itself, you might know that this report will not be useful after a period of time. So in that case, while creating the report, you can mark it as a temporary report. You can see there is an option called temporary report. You can checkbox this temporary report, and then once you check the temporary reports, there is a task called delete temporary reports.
Okay.
So you can perform this action to delete all the temporary reports that are created by you.
Okay.
See, you can also schedule this, or you can run once. So maybe if you do not know, because the other challenge would be on the delete temporary task will be even other report writers, those who mark their reports as temporary would be deleted.
Oh.
Right, this is actually a schedule. This can be a scheduled one, or you can also run it once. But it's the challenge would be other report writers who have marked the report as temporary would also be deleted. Yeah. So
So
in
it
that
would be
way,
difficult to coordinate with people, right?
sorry.
Wouldn't be it difficult to coordinate with everyone? Like
Yeah.
their temporary reports will also be deleted when we are deleting yours.
See, the ultimate goal is if you are marking a report as a temporary, then definitely it will not be useful for over a period of time, right? So in that
Yes.
way, the report writer should be aware that if they are going to mark the report as temporary, it will be deleted.
Okay.
So we
So
have to
just in
create that
case
impression.
if we are just we are going to use the report the entire week and we don't use the report from the next week. So what if someone comes and deletes a temporary report in a day or two? In that way, even though it's useful for us for the entire week, we'll not be able to open the report because it's already deleted by someone else.
So you can probably uncheck that report, delete temporary report, if you know that you need that for a period of time, and then once you feel that it is not required, then you can mark it as temporary. There are two ways. So
Okay.
if it is an ad hoc requirement, mostly we just use it one time, and only one time after that it is not required. So as a report writer, if they are getting more requests, right, in a month, like you have to end up in creating like 40 to 50 reports. In that way, it would be difficult for the report writer to maintain the list of reports that they have created. So if you mark it as temporary, then when you run this task, you don't need to actually go and search for the reports that are created recently and marked as temporary, and then you can directly delete it.
Okay.
So there is another option as well. Since you asked this question, I will also tell you that mass delete custom reports. There is an option called mass delete custom reports, right? With this, so since you mentioned that if suppose someone mistakenly run that one, right, then it would impact all the temporary reports. But
Yes.
here, this mass delete will allow us to choose the report owner. So you can choose the report owner, and then you can delete those reports that are part of this report owner. Let's take this. So we are taking Jacqueline as a report owner, and then we can also choose from last run date to last run date to last run date. So we can choose the period when this report has been last run, and also whether any functionality has been, whether if this report has been. So let's take, like, there are a couple of reports wherein if it is not shared, so we as a report writer, the golden rules would be, before deleting the report, it would be not shared, not scheduled, and does not contain any, not run during the last 6 months. So these are the 3 golden rules that the report writer should follow. The report
Okay.
is not shared, the report is not scheduled, the report is not run during the last 6 months. If these criteria match, then you can straight away go and delete the report, because it is of no use. People are not using that report, right?
Okay.
So we can click and see if this report has been shared. So I'm going to say, I just need to look into the report that are not shared, because I'm planning to delete. And you can also save the, are you aware about this manage filter save parameters?
Yes, I did come across them once.
Yeah, so you can just, so maybe for example, if you're adding so many prompts, and you need to keep on, adding the same prompts whenever you try to run this report. In this case, I'm just going to use these two. So I will save this as a report parameter. Let's say my reports, not shared. And then I will save this. So you can see this has been saved now. So now if I rerun this prompts will be empty, right? But the save parameter will help me to automatically select all the prompts that are defined before. So now you can see it's all empty. So the save parameters, if I select, you will see this is pre-populated.
Yes.
In that way, we can run and see the custom reports that we plan to delete.
Okay.
So now you can see all the reports that are owned by this user. So we can manually select. So these are the reports that are not shared with anyone. So you can see there are no shared authorized user. It's blank.
Okay.
So in that way, it would be easy to select and delete it manually also. So you can mass select, you can select it all, or you can manually select some of the reports. Rather, going into each and every report and deleting would take more time. So in this
Okay.
way, it would be easier for report writer. So these are all some of the tidbits. You will not see those things on the training materials.
Okay.
So it's based on the experience you can learn these things, right? So yeah, so now let's come to this report. So whatever fields that we have selected, it has been pre-populated here. So it's very easy for the report writer. Now we can say, let's say the job profile is not empty, just to make sure that we only need to get the job profiles that are available. It should not be empty. This empty condition would normally help us to eliminate the data that is blank.
Yeah.
So I haven't shared this report with anyone, which we have seen on the top 10 of report writer, right? When we create a report, by default, it will not be shared with anyone. So there are 2 options. You can either share with all authorized user. If you give all authorized user, those who have access to this data source, if you click on the related actions, you will see the security groups who have access to this data source.
Okay.
And only those people can access. So in that way, you can share it with all authorized users, or if you wanted to share it with only specific group, you can still do so.
Okay.
So I'm going to run this report to see if I'm getting any data. You can see whatever fields that we have selected, it has been appearing here with the values. And we can also see there are multiple fields that brings the same value. And we have seen here as a job code 300, same way we have a field to fetch with prefix job code. So
Okay.
because like looking into the ID, we will not know what this ID is, right? Whether if it is a job code or an employee ID, or so many IDs would be there. So in that way, this prefix would help us to define. So while we are reporting, it is mandate for report writer to know which field we are going to use, what is the name that we are going to give. So these are most important heading column headings that report writer should look into.
Okay. So can we apply a filter on job code with prefix here?
So prefix is a text field, right? This is a
Okay.
text field. It would be difficult. So you can make, I mean, like you can still do that. Let's take, I'm going to put this job code. If I'm able to filter it here, then you can follow the same steps on the report definition as well. So you have to mention as job code with prefix contains or equals to job code 26000. So let me do that and show it to you. So now I need this job code.
Yes.
So I'm going to add one more condition. Let me put it as equal to, and then I'm going to. So when you are using the text, right, it is mandate that you should know the space and the characters that we have.
Yeah.
So if I do not know that, if the colon, between the colon and the text, if there are no space, then this will not work, right? So let's try and see if this is working fine. If not, we have to again change. Yeah. So you can see, you can also copy and paste, and then you can use that as well. If you are
Okay.
not sure whether if there is a space as such, so you can do that. So this way you can filter
But
the report.
earlier
And
there are more than one job code with prefix 30300. So there is a chance that the job code is not mentioned in the same way for every instance, right? Here
it
we
wouldn't
don't
be the
have.
case.
Can we just remove the filter so that we
Yeah, yeah.
can see more than one? Maybe
It
it's
wouldn't
because
be
how
like that
the
because,
semicolon is placed.
no, to my knowledge, I think it would be only one job code that has this number 30300. So whatever you filter, it would work accordingly. So it will not only work for one field or other field. So if the filter is there, then it will be applied to all the fields. So let me run it again. See, I'm going to filter it by, let's do it here, 30300. See, there is only one.
Oh, okay.
Maybe, for example, since you asked this, let's try a different one which has many job codes. Mostly, I think the job codes will not be the same across employees.
Maybe there will be repeat. No, okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
there will be unique.
so it's a unique one. So I think so it wouldn't be there, right?
Okay.
So
I understand.
yeah. So the second option that we have seen is how to create custom reports from there, and we have seen report fields and values. We have seen
Okay.
both this contextual. Let's get into related reports. So you can see all this data. This is the job profile. Job profile is considered as a business object. So we can see what and all reports that are used this business object, right? That uses this business object. So in this way also, you can easily identify a report. You can just look into the fields and then you can copy it. So you can also see we have created this job code report using this business object, job profile. This report is also listed here, job code report, right? So whoever create a report with this job, with this business object, it will be displayed here. Yeah. Any questions on the contextual reporting?
No. My
So
only
this,
concern is if someone asks us, so no one will ask us to build a contextual reporting, right? They just
no,
give
no, see,
us the list and so
contextual reporting is not a process. It's a technique that report writer can use.
yes, yes. Yeah.
So it's just a name
Yeah.
of that technique. It's not a process.
Okay.
Nobody will ask you to
Right.
create a contextual reporting. Okay,
Okay.
it's actually like
Just in case we don't know where the data is coming from or
yeah,
where the exact
exactly.
definition is, we can just use this
Yeah,
process.
because we have so much of data. Just if I click on this profile, you will see the data lies in multiple areas, right? You can see there are so many tabs here, and each tab will contain some data. And by looking into this, we do not know which business object or data source that we have to use. But in this way, it would help us to build reports directly from there. If in case
Okay.
we are not aware about, so for example, see, most of the fields that are used under worker can be built with primary object worker. And
Okay.
most of the report writer use all active and terminated workers data source or all workers data source. So if we are unable to get that data out of it, then if in case we wanted to get into detail, for example, if I wanted to get into business process to get some of the information like the time events, or if I want to know whether if the business process are successfully completed, I cannot get it through worker. So what I have to do, I have to get into detail that I have to get into that object to get data out of it. For example, if I wanted to report on business process, then I have to get into business process. I should not get into worker because business object is a separate process.
Okay.
So in that way, report writer should decide where the data is and what they should use, whether they
Okay.
should get into worker. So most of the fields would be there in worker, because worker will always be associated with some of the fields that are inside the profile. But in some cases, if I wanted to get into detail, then it's better I get into that particular object to report on,
Okay.
right? So this is a technique where the report writer can easily report if they are unable to find the respective data source or business object or the fields, right? Okay. Index data source is one of the most important thing the report writer should know, because there are two types of data sources. One is non-indexed, the other one is indexed, right? All the data sources that are defined are delivered by Workday, right? We will not be able to create a data source wherein there is an option within Workday. The report writer can create a custom data source. But
Okay.
custom data source meaning you cannot build your own data sets. You can do, you can edit, and then you can create a custom data source. You can use the existing, and then you can add fields into it for indexing purposes,
Okay.
right? So most data sources in Workday are standard data sources. So if I say index data sources, that are special type of data source which are mainly used for optimizing the report performance and aggregation
Okay.
of data. So the time that takes to run the index data source will be faster compared to the standard ones, which are non-indexed. So with index data sources, you can have one data source for a given object, and then you can predefine the data source filter for that data source as well. So Workday also index the data source filter. So in this case, you might have access to the data source, wherein you might not have access to the data source filter. Even security is applied to data source filters as well. That's where we are saying data source filters are secured. So when you create a custom report based on the index data source, a prompt enables you to select from a list of predefined filters from the data source, which means there are already predefined prompts that are there. So if you use that, all those are filtered, all those are indexed. So the performance will be even more faster. So let's see a comparison, which report has through which report type we can use what data source. A simple report, you can use both standard or indexed. In advanced, you can use both standard or indexed. Same way for matrix and transport, you can use both standard or index. In search report, you can only use index, as well as an inbox, you can use only index,
Okay.
right? So sample list of index data sources that are available in Workday. There are many, but I have just listed few. So you can see indexed workers, trended workers, indexed report run history, all time blocks, all time clock events, worker for HCM reporting, position for HCM reporting. So worker for
Okay.
HCM, let's see how worker for HCM reporting looks like. Let's look into the data source or DS. So on, you might have remembered that the demo session we have seen this question mark technique, right? If you
Yes.
click the question mark, you will see all the prefix. So if I wanted to find report So if you wanted to look into the custom report, you can use RDT or you can use RD, right? If I wanted to look into data source, you can use
RDS.
RDS. Yeah. So all are RDS, even custom or data source, everything is RDS. So I'm going to enter RDS colon worker for HCM. So you can see that report data source. I'm going to click on that. So you will know how to find whether if it's an index data source or a non-index data source. When you click into the data source, you will see the category, the data source type as indexed,
Okay.
right? If others, it will be standard or it will be indexed. So if it is indexed, then the performance of this report will be higher compared to normal data source,
So I have
right?
a question. Yes.
Yeah.
So even if you are going to build a report, but so we can choose the data source like from already created indexed data source,
Yeah, you
or
can
we
use
can
the,
manually create one indexed data source for your specific reports, or if can you already use there's someone else created it,
see, data source cannot be created by anyone.
like the
All are
index.
workday. Yeah, even indexed can be created only by workday. But
Oh,
what
okay,
you can do is workday, I think before an year or two, workday launched an option called custom data source, which
okay,
would help the report writer to add, I mean, to index some of the fields that are non-indexed, right? For example, um, so let's take some field called rating previous, right? The performance rating during the last year. So let's take
okay,
that as an example. That field is not indexed. If it is not indexed, if you try to add that on the index data source, you will not be able to add it, right? Because
okay.
in index data source, if you checkbox the indexed for performance option, let me show you that. So this is an index data source, right? You can see it's an index data source.
Mm-hmm.
So there is an option under advanced, which is called as optimized for performance, right?
Okay,
What happened is during the last to before release, when a report writer or anyone tries to, those who have access to create report, when they try to create a custom report, by default, this option will be checked. If it is checked, you will not be able to use non-indexed data source. Let me try to add all active and terminated. See, it is not coming. I'm getting a different data source. I'm not getting all active and terminated. Reason is this checkbox will enable us to choose only the data source that are indexed.
okay,
If I uncheck, then I can use both indexed as well as non-indexed. Now, if I
okay,
search, so these are some of the challenges that report writer might face because Workday keeps changing these stuffs and they make it mandatory. So it would be difficult for report writer to identify why it's not showing up like that. So now you can see I'm able to select all active and terminated workers. Even now
okay,
I can see HCM also, which is indexed. See, I can, when I choose the index, automatically it is getting selected, all right?
yes,
So there is a challenge here again. If I select this, if I create a report, then I will not be able to add non-indexed field. So in indexed data source, you will also be able to add non-indexed fields. Let me show you how. So now I have selected this, right? So if I search for the field, so if it is an indexed field, it will be highlighting in yellow color. In that way also it would be easy to identify. Now you can see there are so many fields. So let me try to add some. See, I can only add these fields into it. I cannot add more fields than this, right? Because those
Mm-hmm.
are all non-indexed fields. So
Okay.
let me try to add. So this is an indexed field, so that I'm able to add it, right?
Yes.
Now, if I uncheck this, if I search, you will find more options. See, now you can see more options here. You can add non-indexed fields also here,
Okay.
right?
So
So,
while creating a temporary report, we can just directly add any indexed or non-indexed fields to the report.
so you have to uncheck this box. If you are only if you uncheck this optimize for report performance, then
Okay.
only you can add non-indexed fields. Otherwise, it will not show up.
So I just had a question. Earlier, when we tried to uncheck the box and we are trying to select few of the fields from indexed and non-indexed, it's not allowing us to access. Like if we are selecting a field from the indexed data source, it is automatically checking the optimized performance checkbox. And again, when we are trying to do the same with the non-indexed one, it's just unchecking it. So we are unable to add both of them to the report at that time.
Yeah, so the reason would be if you have added a non-indexed field and if you try to check this box, it will not allow. Uncheck this box, it will not allow because, sorry, check this box because you have added a non-indexed field, right? So
Uh-huh.
since you have added a non-indexed field, you cannot checkbox this.
Okay.
If you only add indexed fields, then you can use this field. Checkbox this. See here it says, clearing this checkbox enables you to select a non-indexed data source and non-indexed field, which might cause your report to run slower.
Okay.
If you checkbox this, you will not be able to.
So when we are getting a reporting requirement from someone else, so will they give us any instructions to use whether a regular data source or an indexed data source, or it is up to the reporter?
It is, see, there are different scenarios because the requirement, it depends. Maybe if it is from the business side, they will not know what an indexed or a non-indexed. If
Yes.
it is from a technical end, they might suggest, I want this report performance to be faster. So use index data source. But see, there are some limitations on the index data source as well. Mostly the index data source are used for dashboard reporting because in dashboards, the timeline to populate a workload is 30 seconds, maximum of 30 seconds. If it goes more than 30 seconds, it will fail. The report will not generate values on the dashboard,
Okay.
right? So in that case, what will happen is we have, as a report writer, we should know that we should use only index data source,
Okay.
right? And also we will try to filter down maximum that we can so that it will not take much time to generate the report. Like for example, we can do an organization filter, location, country. So that's where it's a good practice to add more prompts so that it will give the end user to go narrow down their search, right? Rather than getting all data, they can go and narrow down their search. So that will also increase the performance of report. So to answer your question, nobody will inform us unless and otherwise if they are aware. So report
Okay.
writer should know what approach they should proceed.
Okay.
So if it is a dashboard reporting, report writer should definitely choose index data source. See, even nowadays, Workday also do suggest us to use index data source, because non-index data source will have clumsy of data that would take more time to run, right? And mostly it will end up in error. And if there are bigger organization wherein they have more than 100,000 employees, or even if you take more than 50,000 employees, right, it would be very difficult to generate a report. If you choose all active and terminated, and if the headcount is 50,000 plus, you will not be able to see the data immediately. You have to give notify me later, and then only you will be able to see the data. The moment when you give notify me later, you can only download it as an Excel. You will not be able to do an analysis within Workday,
Okay.
like filtering or sorting, etc., right, on the output. So in that way, index data source are better for report performance, but still we have some limitations that probably Workday might consider, and they will bring up some options to optimize it. Yeah. So when I said about the custom data source, right, we have limitations as well. I think we can add maximum of like 5 to 6 fields only. So there are some limitations as well. And also once you publish, you cannot go and edit it. You have to create another one. And you can only create maximum of 5 custom data sources, I believe.
Okay.
So those are some limitations. You can also check on the community, so you will also get to know how many, what are the limitations on the custom data source. And once if you publish the custom data source, then you will not be able to edit it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But can we can delete the custom data source after the work is done, right?
If you delete it, then the report
Can
will
we?
also be not usable.
Oh, okay.
So
So
only
until
with the
that,
custom data source it is running, right? So data source, if you delete it, you will not be able to use it. I'm not sure pretty much whether if you can delete it, because you do not have a edit option. So obviously you will not be having a delete option as well. But
okay.
we can check on that. I can check and update you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's more about the index data source. I felt it is mandate for a report writer should know, so that it will help them to create a good performing report that wouldn't take much time.
Okay.
Right. Let's get into a most important topic that a report writer should know, which is business object, fields, and instance. These are some of the mandate information that a report writer should know. What is a business object? What all fields and instances? What is a calculated fields? Why we need to use calculated fields? When we will use calculated fields? Like that. So
Okay.
business object is a place where Workday stores the data. So in Workday, you will all the data are stored as a business object, like organizations, workers, positions, and so on, which
Okay.
can be thought as of a database tables or worksheets in Excel. So in database, you will see it as a table. In worksheets, in Excel you will see it as a worksheet.
Okay.
So just a database table or worksheet as columns and rows. A Workday business object as fields and instance. Very similar. So you can compare that with Excel. In Excel, you have
Okay.
columns and rows. In Workday, you have fields and instances. So
So the
what are
business
fields and
objects are again stored in the data sources, or it's completely different?
so business object is the data. So data contains multiple data sources like organization. If you want to report on organization, you can use a different like a supervisory organization data sources. So
Okay.
see, business data source is the like kind of a main thing where the data is stored, right? So that
So yes, sir.
data is called as business object.
Business objects. Yes.
Yeah. So fields and instances are rows and columns. Very simple, right?
Okay.
Instances of a business object in Workday are like rows in a table or spreadsheet. So instances are called rows. We have seen that table on the demo session, if you remember.
Yes. Yes.
So instances are rows, wherein
Okay.
the instance represent a unique occurrence of that type of object, such as a given organization or worker. So it's a unique occurrence. It will keep adding rows in, underneath. A business object can have no instance, or even one instance, or many instances. So it depends, right? And
Okay.
that's how Workday has been configured. So next is the calculated fields. Why there is a need for a calculated field, right? Not all the fields are delivered by Workday. I mean,
Okay.
meaning connections to the fields or calculations that has to be done on the field. When I say calculation, these are all the functions that you use it in Excel, Microsoft Excel. For
Okay.
example, let's state some example on Excel wherein you use a most used function called VLOOKUP, right?
Okay.
So we can
Mm-hmm.
use that VLOOKUP function in Workday by using the calculated field. And then if I wanted to format a date, right? Maybe we use multiple. I mean, if you are supporting US client, it will be like a month, date, and year. And if you are supporting Asia, it will be date, month, and year. So it depends, right? So in that way, if you wanted to format it, we use a format option in Excel. Similarly, you can use that in Workday. And
Okay.
mostly, most of the cases we use if conditions, if then else, right? So for that, we have a calculated field in Workday called extra evaluate expression. So based on the true or false condition, we can evaluate that expression and we can provide values. So not all the things can be achieved through a direct field. So that's where calculated field plays a most important role. So this will allow users to perform simple arithmetic, date calculation, text manipulation, logical expressions, retrieval of related data. You can also do a formatting and transformation of their existing data as well. So mostly we will use the calculated fields in the reporting like business process, integration, scheduling report process, and other areas within Workday. So calculated fields are not just used in reports. It's also used in business process, integrations, and scheduling recurrence process as well, right?
Okay.
And it can be based on existing Workday delivered fields.
Okay.
Other calculated fields are available custom fields. So maybe we can, if they are creating a custom object, you can also add a calculated field into it. Or mostly it will be based on the existing Workday delivered field. You cannot create a new field as such, unless if there is a custom field. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then let's get into the copy standard to custom report, which is also a primary task, because most of the reports that Workday delivered will not have all the fields that customers might ask, right? Maybe they might ask, I need this data into this report. That will be like, we will have two different reports, wherein if we need to combine, then we will end up in creating a new report, or we do not know whether if we have to modify that or not. So in that way, if you find some standard report, you can just go and change, and then you can edit, you can copy and edit, and you can add the fields. So for testing, we will do this. There is a standard report called data sources, and we will try to add this field called report definitions, right? So let me search for, so again, if I wanted to search the report, what prefix we will be using?
RD.
RD.
RDS is for data source and
So two things, right? One, if you are looking into, so if you are searching these prefixes, right? Sometimes you will not see the standard reports. So it will actually look into the definition of the report, right? Which you have access to. So in
yeah.
that way, if I wanted to select the data sources, I can just search. And then here also there is an option called reporting. If you click this category reporting, it will only display tasks and reports that are part of reporting, right? So that you will
Okay.
not see business process, other information as such, which would be confusing because there will be so many fields otherwise. So
Okay.
now we can see there is a report called data source.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So you can see there are set of fields, but wherein I wanted to add this field report definition into it, which I could not find it here, right? Report definition is not there. So what we can do, we can click action, standard report, copy. I'm changing it to test, add fields. You can see it is automatically checking as temporary, because see there are two things which I didn't say. So there is an option in Workday wherein you can create a report writer as a temporary report writer. So
Yes.
whatever report that they create, it will be the default marked as temporary.
Okay.
Yeah. So now I need to add a new, so this is, I have copied this report. You can see copy standard to custom report task has been used, and everything remains same. I'm just going to add report
Report
definitions.
definitions.
Yeah. So now I have added. So you can see it is not shared. By default, it will not be shared. And then I'm going to run. See, this is a standard data source. You can see that it is a standard data source. That's why it's taking time to run.
Okay.
If it is an index, it will run immediately. So you can see that field that we have added is appearing here.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yes.
Okay. So, so you can also edit. So now you became the owner of this report, right? Because you have edited, you have copied, and now it will show your name as the report owner. So which will give you access to all the changes that you can perform within that report. On the
Okay.
share, you can see the report owner name, right?
Okay.
Okay. So let's look into the matrix report probably tomorrow. We'll start with the matrix reporting, how
Okay.
to create how to create matrix reports, and then probably we will go further. Okay. And please
Okay.
feel free to stop on saying if you feel that I'm going fast, or if you are fine with this phase that we are going in. So please do share those feedbacks. That would be helpful for me to proceed further.
Sure. Sure. Definitely.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're most welcome. Thank you.